Some people have pools. Some people have private cemeteries. It happens. You move the headstones, but you never move the bodies. You move the headstones, but you never move the bodies. Ah! Wait, that was an entirely different movie that came out 21 years before this one. I'm John Renton with the retro review of The Haunted Mansion from 2003. Yeah, the one with Eddie Murphy, based on the popular Disneyland or Disney World ride. I actually don't remember which particular Disney park it's in. That being said, yeah, The Haunted Mansion, that came out 20 years ago. 20 goddamn years ago. It's an actual goddamn miracle that much time has passed. I was 22 years old when this movie came out. I've seen it once, and I remember it being kind of alright. Not necessarily great, not necessarily awful. Quick, expedient, as opposed to slow and expedient. That's not really how that works. But decided because the new one, for some goddamn reason, Disney felt that this not really smash hit at the box office deserved to be remade. I decided to revisit it. It's on Disney Plus, and it was directed by Rob Minkoff, who did the 1994 Lion King, i.e. the only good one, not that fucking abysmal live-action version. I forgot to review. Probably should have reviewed that. Also, he did The Forbidden Kingdom. Yes, the man who did The Lion King also did that. He also did Stuart Little 1 and 2 and the abysmal Mr. Peabody and Sherman live action CGI mashup thing, whatever the hell it is. And this was written by David Barabon, who did Elf and Zoom. Remember Elf? Remember how Elf was like pretty popular and then just got memed and played to death, and Will Ferrell got like $30 million, like, just thrown at him to do a sequel, and he didn't want to do it. Yeah, this has nothing to do with Elf, because Elf came out after this. So yeah, Eddie Murphy's in this as Jim Evers. And then his wife, Sarah Evers. Marsha Thomason. Good grief. You don't let a woman like that go. Look at her. Just look at her. Look at her, folks. Look at her. Look at him, Tony. What do you think? What do you think? Good old Dave Crockett, and not the Explorer, and Tony Schiavone. And we have Terrence Stamp in this. And I thought, man, Terrence Stamp, it was great that he was able to do films like this while he was still alive. And lo and behold, that old guy is still alive. I felt really, really bad for 5 seconds. And Nathaniel Parker is Master Gracie. Not, he's the best at, baiting the masters of the Gracie. Okay, I'm really struggling with these jokes here. Jennifer Tilly was in Orb. They didn't even allow Jennifer Tilly to show off her tilties. Let's just go with that. Wallace Shawn, inconceivable. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And also, comedian Rachel Harris was in this for a little bit. Forgot how hot she was. Jennifer Tilly was 45 years old when this movie came out. Now, granted, she was just confined to an orb, but 64 years old and still looks great. So, yeah, based on the popular Disney theme park ride, a couple of fun little facts about this deal. It cost $90 million to make for some reason, which is just around $150 million in today's money, because 20 years ago, inflation calculator, facts are fun. $75.8 million U.S. gross, which would be $126 million today, and $182.2 million worldwide, which would be just over $300 million today. So, yeah, it made twice its budget. It had a pretty good marketing campaign. I do remember that. So, yeah, Disney made money, but it wasn't exactly a rip-roaring success. So, the question remains, why remake it? Why reimagine it? Why put Owen Wilson in a movie in 2023? That being said, let's talk about this. Yeah, retro reviews, gonna be spoilers. There isn't much to spoil about this. There is the opening, "Welcome, foolish mortals." It reminded me of The Seventh Guest. Anybody remember the game The Seventh Guest, the point-and-click adventure that was like Myst, only confined to a mansion? That mid-2000 CGI that was just awful, just goddamn awful. Like, it looked stop-motion-like. And it's amazing because this was only 20 years ago. And then, basically, Jim, a.k.a. Eddie Murphy, is very determined to keep working. He does love his family, but he's neglected his family. And Rachel Harris and her husband, I recognize the guy playing the husband, forgot to check up on him, but he does look familiar. he says, "Oh, you want to buy this house? Well, there's only one thing left to do. Let's sign some papers." Click, 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 click. He had the clicky pen and everything. So yeah, driven by his work a little bit too much. He's not driven by anger. There's no holding him back. And they're not in Gainesville, Georgia. The dogs are not in the enclosed pool area, and the garage side door is not open. Yeah, the kids are annoying. The kids are really annoying, in fact. Thankfully, the kids aren't featured a ton until like a little bit later on. So the son's afraid of spiders. Eddie tries to tell him, "Hey, try to learn to whack this spider. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, whacking whatever a spider can." And then some old British voice ends up calling and talking to the wife, trying to find out, hey, we saw your flyer because earlier there was a flyer, a boy was delivering some newspaper stuff to this old mansion for some reason, and this flyer for the Evers and Evers realtor company, fell out, and oh my goddamn goodness, suddenly this old British voice is calling, and it's Terrence Stamp. Because earlier, in the very beginning of the film, we had a bunch of, partying and dancing and death because Love just decided she didn't want to be with the guy, so he hung himself because he was poisoned. Oh no, this girl poisoned herself. Except she didn't. Except she totally goddamn didn't. So yeah, the house is old, and they arrive at the house, and they're surrounded by swamps, and there's a private cemetery back there. That's why some people have pools, some people have private cemeteries. It happens. It really doesn't. Really doesn't. I'm sorry if a house has a private cemetery or is anywhere within earshot of a goddamn cemetery. And that's the case, actually, in town. There is this one house that is generally always available for rent that is near a cemetery. No, you couldn't pay me to go there. And then they get in the house, and Eddie Murphy gets off one breast joke. Look at the size of these knockers. And Jennifer Tilly isn't even in the film yet. Hey-oh. Good old Terrence Stamp, the creepy bastard that he is. Actually, from all accounts, he's actually a very nice guy, but he just plays a really good creep. And, well, there's a bunch of gothic imagery. They spent a lot on these sets, I will say that much. And you think that Master Gracie is the evil one. But oh, no. Of course, the butler did it. The butler did it, by the way. I just want to say that right there. The butler is trying to get everybody away. He wanted to get Sarah there, Marsha Thomason, which, boy, howdy, take a look at her. Why wouldn't you want to be near her? Basically, they are trapped there. The road's flooded. Do you believe in ghosts? Well, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Stamp Busters. Ew. That's his adult site. You're welcome for that. So, Eddie Murphy goes exploring after being summoned to the library, pushes the neck down or whatever, is apparently the Chris Benoit bust, and then goes into this hallway and gets trapped. The kids end up following this ghostly orb that turns out is of the Master Gracie's late wife, or the woman that would have been his wife if the butler hadn't done something terrible. And then the wife is being taken around by Master Gracie because he is convinced and just warped that she is his long-lost love. And we see a portrait of Elizabeth. Got lust in your eyes for Elizabeth. Ow. These savage impressions are hard. How did that guy ever goddamn do that voice for so long? And then we get Wallace Shawn's inconceivable guy here, and a few others, including his wife, who is a maid. And the maid shows up with cookies, and no cookies. They're trespassers. Trespassers don't get cookies. Oh, come on, Ezra, be better than. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a shoehorn joke. Anybody that gets that, well, I'm amazed. Jennifer Tilly is in an orb. That is, and she's called Madam. I would call her Madam in a heartbeat. That's another story for another day. Yeah, the CGI isn't very good. At one point, Eddie Murphy is chased by a brass band. He must, he gets spun around in a chair. You spin me right round, baby, right round, until his career went down, 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 down. Why did Eddie Murphy's career go down? Was it just due to stuff like The Adventures of Pluto Nash and various other movies that didn't do well. I'm genuinely trying to remember why his career did not even just hit like a valley. So, nevertheless, these brass band instruments chase after him in really bad CGI fashion. Uh, Gracie tries to hit on Sarah again. Marsha Thomason, can't blame him. The kids help him look for a key to a crypt. They manage to get there. The dad, they're taken off in this carriage, this ghostly carriage. And the son says, "Dad, I see dead people." Ha ha ha. Jeez. Writing wasn't exactly great here. I mean, I can kind of see why the writer hasn't really done anything of note since, well, Zoom. And I actually forgot all about that Zoom. So, then Jim and his daughter are in, I believe her name was Rachel. I didn't commit some of these names to memory because this movie is not really worth remembering. They're in the tomb. He ends up getting the key from this corpse, but then the corpse comes back to life. More corpses come back to life. The key falls in the goddamn water. The daughter's having to dive into the water full of dead people to get the key. Gets the key. She's surrounded. He manages to rescue his daughter. And now his son can't open the door because there's so many spiders. And he says, "Don't worry. That thing I said earlier about me never being scared. I get scared. I'm scared. Open the door because we're about to die." What do you mean there's zombies is what he's thinking. But open the door. They shut it. There's a disembodied arm that's doing this. Stress ball dead test. They manage to get the key. They manage to unlock this trunk at the behest of Jennifer Tilly. I would follow her orders any day of the week. Let's move on. And it turns out that this trunk holds the original letter that Elizabeth wrote, where yes, she will marry Gracie. But then it turns out that the butler did it. Because Terrence Stamp, how could you trust anybody like Terrence Stamp? Who, again, lovely individual, bit of a creep. And then all this weird bad shit's gonna happen and everybody's gonna die. There's this marriage going on because Sarah's like, "Okay, I'll marry you because I'll save my family." And then she drinks this cup that had this poison because Terrence Stamp is bound and determined to make her dead so they can move on and live the curse. And then what happens is she passes out. Terrence Stamp gets pulled into the fiery pits of hell for no doubt being Terrence Stamp. And seriously, there's a dragon in the goddamn, hellfire fireplace. You probably should put a better filter on that thing. And then he's dragged to hell. Eddie Murphy gets rescued. And then the orb shows up. And it turns out, it's Elizabeth. It's the dead, love interest. Oh my God, how shocking. No one could have seen this coming besides everybody. And her and Gracie reunite. Wallace Shawn and his wife go and get assumed into heaven, but not before Gracie hands him the deed and says, "Here, the house is yours. Do with it what you will. Turn it into a theme park. I don't care." What? Nothing. Marketing. Let's move on. And that's it. That's it. Oh, and they take off on a trip with Jennifer Tilly in tow. And also there was this earlier scene just before they went into the crypt of these singing, bus temptations, these 4 dead crooners. I said crooners, no Hulk. God damn it, Hulk. That's it for The Haunted Mansion. I don't think they ever did a sequel to this. They're just going to remake it with more money, pour it into something that probably isn't going to do as well as this one. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Recklin. I'll see you soon.